What do you think distinguishes the best salespeople versus mediocrity or the worst?
So I coach now. I have 170 people active in my sales coaching program. These are all sellers from the world's top companies like Microsoft and Google and Amazon. These are all driven people. And we have probably around 80% of people in our program hitting our quota. And I'll tell you right now, you want to hire for potential, not for experience. And what separates the great sellers from the good sellers, there's a few things. But number one is extreme drive. You do not want to have to motivate people. If you have to motivate people, you got the wrong person. You really do.
And now the man you've been waiting for, John, the sales machine, Rankins.
Ladies and gentlemen, today's guest is the president and founder of one of the top sales coaching groups in America. He helps account executives go from good to great by mastering the mindset, habits, and skills needed to perform at the highest level in sales. With over 100 million sold in his career, he was the former #1 enterprise account executive at Salesforce.com and is the acting dean of Pavilion's Enterprise Sales School. As a speaker, trainer, and an expert on enterprise sales, he has led national training workshops for Fortune 500 companies, and his message has been shared in a variety of media, including several leading top 100 podcasts. Please welcome Ian Koniak.
Thanks for having me, John. I hopefully we'll live up to the hype here. That sounds like quite an intro.
Well, hey man, I went through your bio and I saw that you were #1 at Salesforce for like 7 years. Is that right?
I wasn't #1 for 7 years. I was there 9 years, and one of the years, it's a global company with thousands of reps. One of the years I finished #1 globally. I don't think anyone's ever finished 7 years, at least for the time that I've known Salesforce. There was never one person who even did it twice in the history. But I did it 1 year, and another year I was in the top 5 globally. But I was one of their top performers. I made their club my last 4 years there. I was able to retire at the age of 40 from corporate sales altogether and pursue my dream of coaching and running a company. So I did very well there, fortunately.
That's fantastic. And, I want to go deep in that, but tell me first and foremost, Ian, how did you get into sales?
I got into sales. I used to be a teacher, interestingly enough. I lived in Venezuela. So when I went to school, I was a bit of a hippie. I went to school in Berkeley, and I partied my head off. And the last thing I wanted to do was go to work. So I decided to go down to South America and travel and have a bunch of adventures there. And the way I got there was I was an English teacher. So I did a program through Berkeley where you could work abroad after you graduate. So I worked there for a year, ended up falling in love when I was down in Venezuela. Then my visa ran out. So I had two choices. I could just continue to kind of stay down there and bum around and teach, which was great, or I could face reality that wasn't a place that I was going to end up being with and raising a family, just because of the realities of Venezuela. It was very dangerous at the time.
Yeah, I've been there.
You've been there. Where'd you go in Venezuela?
Caracas. Yeah, I actually took over a company there, and they were in massive debt, and I helped them rebuild for about 6 months.
How did that go? Did you have to live there when you were in there? Or did you just visit when you were?
Yeah, it was on and off. Like I was there for a month, and then I'd come back for a month into Southeast Asia, which, that's like a 34-hour trip, because I currently live in Manila, but I've been working in Southeast Asia for more than 30 years now, believe it or not. This is like a Ripley's Believe It or Not moment.
I was going to say, so having lived there, you know what it's like, how crazy it is.
Yeah, it was insane. Like people were getting kidnapped, disappearing. Everybody's got guns and gangs, and it's just the entire country it's so wealthy yet so poor because the money is totally misappropriated. We'll just say it's misappropriated.
Yes, yeah, the big discrepancy between the rich and the poor. So anyway, it's interesting. So I was there in 2001 when I was teaching English, and um, it was different back then. Now you can't even go; it's too dangerous. But at the time, it was still pretty cool. Everyone I know that I was with is gone. They all went to Europe. They all went to other countries. Like no one's there anymore. So I kind of saw the writing on the wall back then too, because it was still bad. And so I said, you know what, I got to go back home. Unfortunately, my fun time has ended. So I went and had to leave what I loved, a person I loved, a job I loved, and then had to move back into my parents' basement. Well, I wasn't really in the basement, but I moved back into the house I grew up with no money, no girlfriend, no job, and it was just like going from the highest of highs to the lowest of lows. So I wanted to get out of there as quickly as possible. And so I'm like, how can I make enough money to be able to bring her to the US? And the only way I can get there was to send her to school, because they weren't doing work visas at the time. They were only doing student visas. They'd take anyone with the student visa as long as you can pay up. So I had to figure out a way to save enough money to support her, pay for her college, fly her here, pay for our apartment. And sure enough, I went to a sales and marketing fair because I thought I'd be good in sales because I was a pretty outgoing guy. And I was always good with people. So I thought, this is a good opportunity. And there's a flyer. It said, untapped commission, make 50K your first year, 75K your second year, 100K plus your third year. I'm like, what do I have to do? And they said, just do what we tell you. And that's a guarantee. You're going to make them. All right, sign me up. Well, turns out it was going door to door in Koreatown selling copy machines door to door. So that was my first sales gig, but it didn't matter. Like we talk about like cold calling, and people have it easy now. They really do. When I started, I had to park my car. I had flyers and I would go up and down buildings doing 20, 30 calls a day, door knocking to people who didn't speak English for the most part, getting thrown out of buildings, chased out by security guards, and have to do it over and over again with zero sales experience, a product that was commoditized. So that was my entry into sales. And sure enough, I persisted. And because I had a strong why, I had a strong reason, I wasn't going to give up. And within 1 year, I saved enough money to have my girlfriend here, pay for her tuition, and get out of the house. So that was kind of how I got into sales in the first place.
I absolutely love it. And, I spent time in the military, and I was poking holes in the ocean on a nuclear powered submarine, and weaponized one at that. And I hated it. Full disclosure, I hated it. I loved the experience, but I just didn't like being told what to do, and being underwater for like 60 days was insanity to me. I'm like, and I'm a pawn here. There's no future for me in the military. So I got out and I wanted a sales job. And funny enough, I looked at all of the different ads in the paper, and there was these car dealership ads, right? Free signing bonus 2,000. The reason why I share that is I had a why. I was raised by a single mom. Her house was foreclosed on. And so for me, whatever it took, I needed to make money to take care of my mom, right? Anyway, I replied to an ad, have fun, make money, toy company. Same headline as Steve Jobs applying to Atari. I guess they knocked off the ad, but I went in there, I showed up, there was all this hype, people were yelling, screaming, there was music, and I'm like, what's going on? It ended up door-to-door sales. And I used to run around Haight-Ashbury Street, San Francisco, Oakland, and I would sell baggy pants door to door. And man, would people be violent, like kicking you out, saying, I work in Asia now, but Americans, they're not shy. They'll tell you where to go. They'll tell you to get a real job. You're a loser. What's wrong with you? Because I wasn't selling copiers. I was selling novelty items. I just share that with you because of the why. Right away from was it Rico copiers?
Yeah. I started at Rico. Exactly.
And then when did you transition from being good at sales to actually building a team and coaching people?
Yeah. So I was, I just was built for that sales. I was a natural. I did it well. I got to the top. And I had been doing it 5 years and making really good money, and, industry that probably, I stayed in a little too long, but at the time I was great. I was in my 20s and didn't end up working out with the girl. She ended up cheating on me, but it did get me into sales, and that I'm grateful for. But I had 5 years of a lot of success, and then Rico bought the company that I was working for at the time, which is called Lanier. So I was working for Lanier, then Rico came in and bought him, and then they changed the comp plan. And I had made in 2007 selling copiers $355,000, which for 20, I don't know what I was at the time, I guess 26, 27, that was a lot of money. And then the new comp plan would have been like 175. So it was the equivalent of like a couple $100K pay cut. And I'm like, I remember going to my boss at the time, and he said, we need to talk, because he saw the numbers. He knew what it would mean to me. And he brought me to the bar, and he's giving me shots. He's like, what do you want to do? I'm like, I showed him the math. I had it all worked out. I was showing him, I'm going to make 350. Now I'm going to make 175, 200, whatever it was. And he's like, maybe you want to go into management. Or maybe he said, I guess it's time to be a manager or something weird. But I was like, I guess so. And that was literally how it started. So they took the top rep and made me a manager. And I ended up doing that for 5 years. So I had a frontline sales team. We were about 10 or so people. We did really well. Then I had 2 or 3 offices. I was a branch manager. Then I was a general manager. And then I was a director of sales. So in the 5 years between 2007 and 2012, I got promoted 5 times. And when I ended up when I left Rico, I was managing 80 people. I had 10 managers under me. I had 70 sales reps, and we were running a $60 million business that we had built it up to. And we were the top team in the country by far, actually globally. And it's the same kind of thing. Like it was not, the higher I got, the more I got away from the customer, the more I got into like HR and kind of like, you're like a sandwich in the middle. The middle management was not my sweet spot. And it was that, but it was also the money. Like I was running a $60 million business, and I was getting paid about $250K a year. And that didn't make a lot of sense to me. So I'm like, I gotta change. And that kind of propelled me to go back to be an individual contributor at Salesforce. And I ended up changing industries entirely. So.
Well, that's great. That leads me to 2 questions, especially because this is going to empower companies that, want to grow their sales team. So what do you think distinguishes the best people, the best salespeople versus mediocrity or the worst?
So I coach now. I have 170 people active in my sales coaching program. These are all sellers from the world's top companies like Microsoft and Google and Amazon. And these are all driven people. And we have probably around 80% of people in our program hitting our quota. And I'll tell you right now, you want to hire for potential, not for experience. And what separates the great sellers from the good sellers, there's a few things. But number one is extreme drive. You do not want to have to motivate people. If you have to motivate people, you got the wrong person. You really do. You want people that are self-motivated. And people don't hire for that. They don't look for that. But like just understanding the adversity people have had to overcome, understanding why they want it, understanding what their goals are, understanding like, who you're talking to and what success looks like for them. Like you want to hire people who are super ambitious and driven, and you're not going to have to quote unquote manage. You want to be able to coach people and help develop them, but you don't want to have to manage people. So I think number one, they're self-sufficient, they're self-driven. And if you've ever read Jim Collins' Good to Great, he talks a lot about that. He says, incent people so you bring in the right people, but hire for, spend the time hiring the right people up front who are already self-motivated, because you do not want to spend time, not even a minute, motivating people. If I have to motivate you, I got the wrong person. So that's number one, is I'd say self-motivated. I can kind of go on a few qualities, but for me, that's important. Second is intelligence. You need to find people that can pick up things quickly, right? And intelligence is a little harder to screen for, but you want people that are coachable, that can learn, because when you're selling software or anything that's complex, if you're going door to door selling copiers, no offense to the copier salespeople out there, but it's pretty straightforward and you can pick it up. But if you're selling a complex software that you need to manage solutions engineers and business value teams and architects and extended customer success people, if you're selling anything that is 7 or 8 figures like I did, you're gonna need to understand how to develop business acumen, how to speak to executives, how to put together a business case, how to lead and quarterback a team, how to solve problems that are real at companies. You have to understand how to read a company earnings, understand how people make money and how you can help them make money or save money or whatever it is that you deliver. That's all stuff that's not natural and intuitive. You've got to study, you've got to learn it. You have to be committed to growth, right? You have to be intelligent, but you also have to be committed to growing. If you're committed to growing and you're not intelligent, you can make up for that because you'll pick it up because you want to outwork people, and you're going to have that kind of complex of like, I need to work twice as hard as everyone else because it doesn't come natural. That's fine too. But I think in general, you need people that can speak intelligently to customers and have good business acumen, and you can coach to that, right? But you can't coach someone who just doesn't get it. You can do it over and over again. If they still can't get it and they still can't pick it up, then you probably got the wrong person. So they need to have some degree of to be able to grasp the concepts that are needed to be successful in selling.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I love it. Number 1 is hungry. Number 2 is intelligence, right?
Yeah, and no one says that. But you got to be smart to be able to be a great salesperson. You can hustle, you can grind, but if you want to be the best, you have to be more strategic, and you have to be committed. And I think the third is genuinely that they care. You actually have to have someone who's caring, who wants to help the customer. Because if they don't care, they're not going to take the time to learn the customer's business, to research the customer, to prepare, to be able to build a thoughtful proposal. Caring solves a lot. Caring is like, if they really care more about. This is ironic because maybe hungry and caring don't go hand in hand per se, but you might think, oh, well, you go work at a nonprofit or something. But the best sellers are the ones that genuinely care about helping their customers succeed and knowing that their own success is an outcome of how many other people they help and how much value they bring to the market. And the more I care about making my customers successful and helping them succeed, the more revenue and the more income that I get as a seller. And I think that, to me, is like, you got to be a great person before you can be a great salesperson, because you've seen it, right? You've seen the people that show up and throw up that are, wearing the suits and they sound like robots. And it's just like, it's no one wants to be sold to, right? People want to solve problems and achieve goals. No one wants to be sold to. So someone who actually cares, you can feel it with their authenticity. You can feel it with the way they interact. So I think those are qualities. I probably can give you 10. Actually, I can leave this in the show notes, John. I put a infographic together, the top 10 traits of elite sellers. And there's a bunch there. There's things like discipline and resilience and persistence. There's a lot. But if I had to break it down to 3, those would be the top 3.
That's brilliant. One of my favorite sales mentors is Zig Ziglar. And he said sales are about 3 things. Number 1, service. And I always say to my people, when you come from service, you're never nervous because your ego's out the door and it's all about helping others. And a lot of people say, well, I'm not good at sales. And I'm like, well, if you say that, potentially you've got issues or you really don't like helping people. Because for me, sales is, and like Zig Ziglar says, sales is service, solving problems and making sure they're satisfied. And to your point of being hungry, for me, it doesn't discount empathy and caring about people, because the hungry you are about being successful and learning, and if you're really intelligent, you know that the more people you help, the more they're going to refer others. And so it's going to fulfill your pipeline and fulfill your goals.
That's right. And if you're intelligent, you can, a lot of business owners are intelligent, but they're not, they're not operating as. I'll give you another example. Something I've done that I have and will swear by, and especially I've been the CEO and founder now. I've been gone from sales for 3 years, and we're already, we're doing very, very big numbers, and we'll be an Inc. 5,000 company this year, and rapidly growing. And my secret to how I've been successful so quickly is I hire mentors and coaches that have done it before, and I model after their playbook. And that's kind of a reflection of intelligence. It's really stupid to try and figure out something on your own and try and because you're so stubborn, you don't want to invest in yourself and actually get the help you need, because maybe it's a pride thing, or maybe it's being cheap, or your relationship with money. But for me, one of the biggest things that I've done that kind of has helped me not only in sales, but as a business owner, is I've paid to have the very, very best mentorship from people like Zig Ziglar, who obviously is not mentoring right now, but people like Rory Vaden, who's a disciple of Zig Ziglar. He's a personal mentor and coach for me. And I hire brand builders to help me with them. I have a spiritual coach. I have a trainer. I have a great team of people that I can learn from. And that is a form of intelligence. It's like saying, I don't have the answers, but I'm smart enough to realize that other people do, and I'll go find them, and I'll be resourceful to go find people who've done this before and model and learn after them. So I think that, just having good mentors and good coaches and good people that you can pay to help you and show you the way is the fastest shortcut. That's how we've done probably, in 3 years, what most coaching organizations have taken 30 years to do. We've compressed it by 10x. And it's just because I'm taking all the things that people have done before me and modeling and following them. And it's working.
Full disclosure, I've spent probably upwards of $500,000 on my own self-coaching and the self-help industry. And, a lot of people say they read 1,000 books. I'm like, oh yeah, great. What did you implement? I don't care. You read 1,000 books. I read something, I get it, and I immediately install it, try it, test it.
You're smart. This is the common denominator of successful people. They're in masterminds or self-help or coaching programs because that's how you implement. Those programs are to help you implement and apply what you're learning versus, I'll get it for free. I'll read a book No, it doesn't work. You read and then you read and then you read, and you're so busy consuming, whereas entrepreneurs are doing, right? And doing and then researching. Way more doing, way less researching, right? Than the other way around. So I think, I've done the same thing. I don't know what I've spent, but every year it's, 50 grandish, and it's been the difference. When I was trying to do it on my own at Salesforce, I was missing my quota. When I paid for help, I went from being mediocre to number one, and then I repeated and made club every year thereafter. And I'm like, this is the fastest path. So, and then I just did the same thing in business. Honestly, I don't take credit. It's all the people before me.
I'm totally resonating with what you're saying. Literally yesterday, I ran a sales training with my salespeople in the boardroom, and while I was in there, I literally went over situational intelligence, because it's not just about being intelligent; it's also about situational intelligence, knowing when to speak, when to listen. And mostly it's about listening. And especially if you're in a complex sale, if you've got 4 or 5 people in a boardroom, an IT guy, the sales manager, the salespeople, when you're presenting, you have to understand you need to enroll everybody, because you never know who's going to block that deal. And more, now that I'm in software, and I say the sales machine is B2B software. It's like having Zendesk, Salesforce, MailChimp, Udemy, and the patent pending is on the achievement module for the salespeople. Literally all 5 in one, right? And so it becomes complicated, or we get thrown into the CRM bucket, right? Because Salesforce is a CRM. Zoho's a CRM. Mark Roberge from HubSpot, he was on last week, $30 billion company, right? He's a badass.
Big name for sure.
He's a total badass. But Ian, obviously you're a badass. We all just do things differently, right? And I love to extract what's great about each individual. And so I know that what can help a lot of individuals out there, even my organization, when I coach, recruit, train, retain my salespeople, sometimes even though you have the hungry and you have the empathetic, right, and they're intelligent, a lot of times the biggest challenge they have is closing the sale or asking for the sale. Now, you were a top performer for years, not only individually, but collectively. So what tips and strategies or techniques can you give to salespeople that are asking for the sale or closing the sale?
I mean, I think the closing is I shouldn't say by far. That's a little bit of an overstatement, but the closing, if the rest of the sales cycle is done right, closing should be the easiest part of the sale, because at that point they're very well qualified and they're going to be much better off doing business than if they don't do business. And that's really the reason people don't close or have trouble closing a lot of times, is because they are convinced that the prospect wants or needs your product or service, because they've skipped some steps. And so when we talk about sales methodologies or when we talk about qualification, everyone's done it a little bit differently, but ultimately I don't believe in closing. I believe in understanding where a prospect needs help in detail, why they need help, what they've tried before, what the impact is of staying in the status quo, and whether or not they really need my product or service before I decide to propose or pitch or try to close anything. So it's way more important for me to be convinced that the client is someone that I truly can help than it is to show them my products or services and do demos and, show them all the things we can do. I want to make sure they're a good fit and that they're going to benefit. So I think it's a mindset shift of selling. Never approach the client with the idea of selling them a product or service. Approach them with the idea of understanding whether or not you can help them first improve their life or improve their company. And it is that simple. That actually came from Brian Tracy. That mindset is how I go into discovery calls. If they're not sharing where their pain is, let's say I want to sell someone sales coaching. Let's say I want to go to a big company and sell them my coaching programs, and I'm talking to a sales leader. And they tell me, yeah, our coaching sucks, or our enablement sucks, or we don't know how to train our team. Well, okay, what are you doing today, right? What's your process? How much time do you devote? Do your sales managers do it? Who does it? What are you coaching them on? Okay, what's the impact of that? What is the percentage of quota that they're at right now? What's their average selling price? What's your turnover like? Like, how big is the problem, right? How big is the problem that we're solving? And where do you think they need help? Where are they struggling? Are they struggling with discovery, cold calling? Is it prospecting? Is it a mindset? Is it their work ethic? Like, let's figure out and diagnose what's going on first before we talk about my program. And if they say, well, just tell me what you got, I'm like, I don't know what I got until I know what you're struggling with. Then I can make a recommendation that's specific to you. I can coach on anything, right? So it really just depends on where you need help. And so I think that for me, that for prospects, when they hear that, when they see that intention of like trying to understand and have a conversation versus showing up and pitching, it's really disarming for them. They don't have to have their guard up versus me showing a deck or jumping into a demo or a product or service. So I've always taken the approach of like, have that first meeting as a conversation and really let's see if they're a good fit first before proceeding with the sales cycle. Now, if they're a good fit, then we can talk about how we can help them. But the reason people have trouble closing is because they try to close too soon before it's really qualified. So I've developed a pretty simple acronym to kind of predict whether or not a deal is ready to be closed. And it's called PREDICT. That's the acronym. So I'll kind of walk you through the letters. And I can share with you I have a cheat sheet that I can share as well, that has all the questions for each letter that you can ask. But the P is problem with pain. So if someone says like, we don't like Salesforce, okay, let me show you our sales machine. No, it's not going to work. Okay, why don't you like it? How long has this gone on for? What's the impact it's having on your team? How is it hurting your business? How is it hurting your users? So you got to get to that pain. A problem is not a problem unless there's pain and clear metrics that are suffering that's attached to the problem. So that's what I try to dig in. That's the first P. The second is reason. That's the customer's why. Why do you need to change? What's driving this? Is it you have a goal to hit? Are you trying to get funding for your next, series, Series B? Are you losing your reps because they're not successful? Are you going to lose your job? Is your reputation at stake? So why is it important to you and why is it important to your company? What's your personal motivation? What's in it for you? What's in it for your company? That's what the R is, okay? The E is engagement. If a customer is not getting back to you, if they're not returning your calls, if they're not answering your text, if they're not giving you access to the people and the information you need to see what they're doing, I'm sorry. It's not a priority for them. So the more engaged the customer is, the more real the deal is, right? The quicker the response back to you, the quicker that, they reply and get you what you need, the more higher a priority is. Customers are going to work on what's their priorities, not yours. So engagement's a big driver of success. That's the E. D is decision maker and decision process. It's how do they buy? Who are the stakeholders? What's the process for buying? Does it have to go to a committee? Does it have to go to a board? Does it have to go to a CFO? Understanding the buying process. A lot of customers don't know how to buy. They just don't. They think they want something, but they don't know how to buy in their organization because they've never done it. So you want to talk to someone who knows how to buy. You got to be talking to decision makers. That's the number one of all the letters. That's by far the most important. You can't sell to someone who can't buy. You can't sell to someone who can't say yes or doesn't know how. So that's the D. Okay. The I is impact. What's the financial impact of doing business with you? What is the ROI on the solution? C is cost of inaction. What happens if they do nothing? How much are they spending to stay in status quo, right? How much are they spending to, let's give you a simple example. If I sell Sales Machine, for example, right? And I can save my reps 2 hours a day, right? On admin time that they have to go into all these different systems and update stuff manually and go do data entry or whatever, look for information, all the crap that people have to do. If I have a team of, let's say 20 sellers and I save them, right? 2 hours a day, right? That's per day, right? I'm saving 40 hours per day or per week, 200 hours. That's the equivalent of 5 full-time employees. So what's their full-time employees? Maybe they're 150K OTE. So I know firsthand that I can save them 150,000 times 5, right? 750K a year on a team of 20 people if I can save them 2 hours a day. But I got to know that. I got to know what they're doing, how they're spending the time, and make sure I really do the deep dive to understand where is that admin time being spent. Is that something that my solution can automate, right? So that's the C is the cost of inaction. What are you paying to do nothing? Because there is a cost. And I guarantee you it's a lot more than what they're going to spend for automation of, using your software, a lot more, because labor costs are the highest cost and we always can automate manual process. And the T is timeline. Why now? What is driving this now? Why do you need to change right now? So if you pressure test your deals and go through the predict and really see, do we understand the problem, what pain it's causing, right? Are they highly engaged with us? Do we know their why, right? Do we know the financial impact of solving the problem and what it costs them to stay in the status quo? Are we aligned with decision makers and understand the process? And are we doing it on their timeline, not ours? Do we have a compelling event to drive forward? Your deals are going to close if you can answer those questions. And if you can't, you got to go back to your customer and ask the questions. So I know I just dropped a lot, but that's why deals don't close. There's no magic formula for what you say to get a deal closed. The magic formula is spend the time understanding what the fuck they want and need in the first place and why they need it, and then only pitch them when you know you can really help them, because then you have leverage and you just remind them why they're doing it in the first place. But if you don't know why, they're sure as hell not going to know why.
Absolutely. If you ask for the sale and you haven't went through the challenges of the customer and you haven't handled their pain or objections, then that's why you haven't made the sale. I'm loving what I'm hearing. It's brilliant, Ian, especially for companies out there to understand. It's not just about the close. It's if you are trying to make a close or you're attempting to do a close and you haven't found out what the pain of the customer is and a solution that actually makes sense to them, that's why you cannot close the deal.
And you got to dig. You got to dig. You got to dig. You got to ask good questions. Selling is asking good questions. Really trying, again, that's why if you care, you want to understand and spend time understanding the impact and understanding how long it's gone on for and why it's gone on, and why they want to change. Like it's just having conversations about them and understanding whether or not you can help them. It's simple. It's not easy because our tendency is we want to pitch, we want to show off, we want to talk about our solutions, but that's actually the worst thing you can do. The worst thing you can do is jump too early to your solution, because that's when you'll lose the customer. Just have a conversation about them.
I do sales training too, dude. And one of the first thing I do whenever I enter a room, whether I'm teaching my own guys and gals or if I'm at a company, I always walk to the front of the room and put nobody cares. I just write that on the board first, right out the gate. Right out the gate, guess what? Nobody cares about you, how you dress. Nobody cares about your solution, your company, how long you've been in business. Nobody cares. Why don't we just get that out of the way right now and drop that? Because the only person that should be caring is you about them. And the only way you can prove that you care about them is to go deep in conversation. Like you said, dig, dig, dig. I call it digging for gold, right? Because they'll start spitting out golden nuggets of their pain, their problems. And that's the gold, how you can identify how to serve them. I love your predict process. Now, for people out there that have sales teams, I love the fact, Ian, that you've been on both sides, right? And potentially, I don't want to assume that Salesforce provided you with leads or prospects, right? But you've been door to door with Rico, and all the prospecting was you from the top of the building to the bottom. And,
That's right.
I've been there and I've done that. And, I even worked out strategies for myself and my sales team. So you never go from, if there's 30 floors, you never go to the 30th floor and then the 29th floor and the 28th floor, because security's they're going down, and because they're going to kick you out the building, as an example.
I used to go 32, 29, 3, 28, 4. So I would think I would throw them off their game. And it did. It worked. That's so funny. I don't know many people. I genuinely don't know many people who've done that, have gone through that, like, fear of security. But that's the world. After that, everything's easy. I mean, really, I'm so grateful for that door-to-door experience, because once I got to Salesforce, I'm like, man, what these guys have it made. They have BDRs, cold calling. There's no door-to-door. They give you an account list to go out. Like, it was catch what you kill. It was eat what you. It was hunt yourself. No leads. I mean, it was, yeah, it really was.
Yeah, and that's how you know that I know door to door, because I've been escorted out of so many buildings, and
embarrassing.
It is embarrassing, dude. Especially because when they escort you out, I remember in Denver, Colorado, and I was really good at skipping the floors and stuff like that. Well, eventually, what happened? I got like half of the building done, right? But security was they were going nuts. And so you know what they did? They dropped all the elevators. So, so I came down and they finally got me. And I show up we take the last elevator down to the lobby, and there's literally a crowd because they've dropped all of the elevators and everybody's waiting for me, and they're standing outside the elevators and they're pissed, dude. And I'm like, hi.
Yeah.
Have a nice day, guys. I'm like, oh man.
No, I just like pretend like nothing happened. Just walk out. It's like, I used to get parking tickets. I'd like scramble down, and I wasn't getting any. I mean, it was a whole thing. Like I would get parking tickets, and I'd have to move my car. And if a meeting went well, I'm like, I don't want to leave this. I actually finally got one lead. But it never failed me. I don't know if you had this experience, John, but it never failed. Like, the way that I ran the business back selling copiers was do 20 calls, 20 door knocks a day. If you do 20 door, which is hard. I mean, that takes a lot. If you do 100 door knocks per week, right, you'll set 10 appointments. If you set 10 appointments, 4 of those will turn into opportunities. And if you do 4 opportunities, you get 1 sale. So our whole philosophy was do 2 and set 2 every day. Do 2 appointments, set 2. And the way you do the way you set 2 is do 20 cold calls. That was kind of the ratio, because at the time people were leasing the copiers. So, you'd always have someone whose lease was coming up in the next year, or you'd find someone. But sometimes it was like you do 15, 20, 25, and there's nothing. I'd say, don't stop until you get that appointment. Don't stop. And I kid you not, it was like Friday at 5 p.m. when I didn't want to do it, last door, and I found this huge opportunity. They walked me by there. They're super. So it was like I learned that you just can't stop, even if you don't necessarily see the results. And that's kind of stayed with me throughout my whole sales career, is like the understanding of like falling in love with the process of showing up and doing what you can control. And I've just seen this karma of like hard work being rewarded continuously, even if it's not where you expect it. I just always see something, especially in those moments where I want to give up, and I still do it when I don't feel like it. There's always like an opportunity that's knocking. So that's, for me, it's all about the process.
Yeah, I agree. It is. It's knowing your numbers and the law of averages of your own numbers, right? Like you said, do 2, set 2. That's brilliant, right? Do 2, set 2. And I had this challenge 2 weeks ago. We have a couple different softwares. We have Fun Crowds, which is a loyalty and rewards app for small businesses. Cashback, friend, get a friend, da da da. Anyway, some of my new guys were like, yeah, we can't get through the gatekeeper. We can't find the right leads. And I said, all right, so what are you doing? And, I just found out what activity are they actually doing to get leads. And they're looking on daily deal sites, or they're going to past clients where they used to work for free, right? And all of them are saying, no, I love it, but no, we never pay you for something, right? And I'm like, okay, guys, really seriously, get in the car. And I took them out in the field, and I went to a mall, and we pitched like 98 different establishments. We got 90 qualified leads, met 6 owners, and set 6 appointments over the course of a day and a half. And I'm like, any questions?
Did you do it with your individuals, or did you go with the whole team, or were you doing this one by one with different?
I did it with 4 people, but then 1 per door, because otherwise, if you bring all 4 in, it's intimidating.
You bring the whole mob and you scare them off. I love it. You got to roll up your sleeves. You got to show them this is possible. And when they see a leader doing it, then it's like, that's the modeling. The fact you're not just telling them what to do, but you're showing them what to do says a lot about your leadership, John, because that is what good leaders do. They don't tell them, they show them, and they lead by example, right? They're not too high and mighty to go get dirty and to do the job with them. And then,
I haven't been in the field in years, but I'm like, and so then I did it 3 days in a row, because I'm like, I'm a twisted puppy, dude, because I actually enjoy the field, and it gives me memories of, and here in the Philippines, I'm in the Philippines right now, right? The people are so sweet, right? They're not like irate Americans, right? With irate Americans with weapons. I remember going in the field in Oakland, and I was selling these baggy pants, and I walked out of a grocery store, and a crackhead was there with a big kitchen knife, right? He's like, give me the pants. He's like, give me the pants. I'm like, no, I can't. I need these. I need the money. I have to pay for these pants. He's like, give me the pants. And he started stabbing at me. I'm like, oh no. I'm like, this guy could get lucky. I gave him the pants. I gave him the pants.
I spoke with my good friend. He's a guy named Sam Taggart, and he leads D2D Con. So door-to-door convention. They have this huge door-to-door. And these are the people that are doing retail, residential door-to-doors. These are the guys that are doing solar door-to-door, or pest control, or
windows, roofing.
Roofing services. All they're in Texas. They're in rural parts. And the stories they had about like people pulling guns on them and just the threats and attack. I mean, that is a whole different level. Going to businesses door to door, that's way easier than going to backcountry, gun territory and, messing with people's property and being, I couldn't even, I thought this is easy compared to what I'm doing. But those guys, I gave a keynote a couple of years ago at the D2D Con and heard some stories. I was like, what? I got it easy. It's all about keeping perspective. The more you do these really hard things, the more you can appreciate everything that comes afterwards. So I always have that to draw on, even though I haven't cold called and gosh, I would, at Salesforce, we didn't get leads handed to us, but we had a good brand name. People knew who we were. So, it was one of those things that they're more likely prospected all the time. That's all I did. But you're prospecting to large enterprise. So I was an enterprise rep. So I only had at any given time less than 10 accounts. And in those accounts, typically they would have a tiny little footprint of Salesforce or some footprint where I could say, hey, you're using us in this department over here. I want to talk to you about how we can maximize your success in other areas. Some don't get me wrong. My rookie year in Salesforce, they gave me the worst territory. No one else, the past 4 reps had been there, all got fired. Like no one sold it. Everyone told me, oh, just give it to this guy. He came from copiers. He's gotten, let's see what he can do. And I ended up getting rookie of the year because I sent 15 emails to the CIO of St. Joseph Hospital. And only after 15 did he actually meet with me. So I had that kind of like, don't stop, won't stop attitude. And I ended up putting myself in a position where I got good timing with the CIO, but it was because 15 emails later, he said, okay, I'll talk to you. We don't like Microsoft. And it was the perfect timing, but most people stop at 1 to 3 reach outs. I have my clients doing 10 and I do it across multiple channels. So across LinkedIn, across phone, across email, right? Across text message. So when you're reaching people with the right message across their preferred channel, your likelihood goes way up. But I think there's a mindset around like, I don't want to bother 2 people. So a lot of people are going really wide with 1 or 2 touch points, whereas I went really deep with a few accounts and did a lot of touch points. So it was still prospecting, but it was very centered around developing a point of view on how and where I can help them, doing research, going to executives in those accounts, and then just being like a bulldog and not giving up until I got a no or got a meeting. So
yeah, laser focused, right?
It was more targeted, more personalized, very hyper relevant, personalized prospecting at either the account level or the individual level. I would go and listen to a podcast of an owner of a business and hear all the things they're talking about and reach out and say, hey, I saw you mention X, Y, and Z. I think we can help you. We need to talk. I directly can help you with these goals. So that takes more time. It takes more focus than just kind of grinding, going door to door in the copier space. It's a totally different world, different ballgame when you're selling enterprise software, but it's still all prospecting. It's just more targeted prospecting.
Yeah, that's gold, man. You've given so much gold today. It's priceless. So many business owners out there can literally take your predict framework, the psychology and methodology you're explaining to really scale their team, or they can reach out to you and grow it. I have the same psychology and methodology, and I built the sales machine to put it into technology to do that, to empower companies to go from ordinary to extraordinary. And a lot of companies just don't get it because they don't have the sales leadership, what you said earlier. So you've talked a lot. You've given people enough about the sales. So what makes a great sales leader?
Oh, this is my favorite. I think there's the pattern in most companies. They take the best rep and then promote them to leader. Which is important. You got to have someone who knows how to sell, but that doesn't mean they're going to be a great leader. So, just so you know, John, I dropped for your team. I dropped the top traits infographic in the show notes and in the chat, and I dropped the Predict free training where I walk people through how to use Predict, and there's a scorecard link to access all the questions for each of the letters. So if you want to share that out with the show notes or the podcast when it comes out, please do. For everyone, that's my gift to you. So now, what makes a great leader? Again, it's funny things, but kind of aligned with some of the sales qualities. But I'd say number one is they care about helping others, but instead of caring so much about helping their clients, they care about helping their team, right? They're genuinely committed to developing and seeing their team as individuals rather than just a number, right? It's easy to just say, oh, you're not pulling your weight, get on it and treat them like garbage because they're not pulling their weight. And that's only going to make things worse. So if you see, your job as a sales leader, you hired them. You are responsible for who you hire. So you're also responsible for developing them. You can't hire someone and expect them to go out and actually know how to do the job. Unfortunately, as nice as that sounds, it's rare. Your job is to coach and develop them and teach them. Great sales leaders are great teachers. They know how to teach. They know how to lead. They lead by example. They teach them by showing them it can be done, but then they take a step back and say, okay, now your turn. Now let's observe. I'll give you an example because I have a sales team too. And in my head of sales, we had our two biggest months in January and February back to back. And now he's making big money. He's making north of 500K a year, which is huge for a coaching company. And he's crushing it. And then March comes around and then boom, tanks. So he was like, Ian, I don't know what's going on. I was doing so good, and we kind of diagnosed it. So again, a great leader coaches. They coach, they figure it out. I'm not worried about the guy. I got the right guy in place. Love the guy. He's incredible. But I knew something was off. So we diagnosed it, and I spent an hour and a half coaching him on what was going wrong. So first thing he says to me is he's like, my close ratio is the same. Then I look back at the numbers and I see that the number of appointments and leads we gave him is the same. So I'm like, that's impossible. So I go and did my own work and saw his close ratio had dropped from 37% to 27%. He wasn't looking at it that way. He was looking at it the wrong way. So when I looked at it, I saw that it wasn't the same. So then we talked through what happened. Your close ratio dropped by 10%. Everything else is the same. And then we figured out that he was showing up trying to close and trying to enroll people because he wanted to keep that same number that he had done in January and February. That became a standard, and he was thinking more about his results than the client results. And I said, you're being needy. You're being pushy. We don't need anyone, okay? They need us. No offense to, them, but like we're here to help them. If they don't want, we don't need to convince anyone of anything. Let's figure out where they need help. Let's give them the options and let them decide for themselves. And then he starts saying he was trying to use different techniques and he was being pushy and, and it felt horrible. It felt icky. It felt gross. And I said, stop. Detach from your outcomes. I don't expect you to do, what was he doing? 250K a month. He did 500K in revenue for the first couple of months. I'm like, I don't expect that. Your quota was 120 a month, not 250. You're doubling it. Like, that's not, where's this coming from? He's like, that's my standard. So he was thinking more about his results than his client's results. And then I said, stop. Just don't worry about your stuff. Your stuff will come as a result of helping other people. You need to not push them. If they're not ready, fine. Check back with them. Set up a time to follow up. Figure out what's going on. But just be caring and authentic. If you're trying to push them, the more you push, the more you try and sell, the more you will repel. Okay? If you want to get people to want to work with you, that's right.
Interject, boom. The more you try to sell, the more you repel. Keep going, Ian.
So the key is the more people feel like you need them, the less they're going to feel like they need you. The less people feel like you need them, the more they're going to think they need you. So it's actually like reverse psychology. You don't want to come across as needy. And so when we figured that he was coming across as needy because he was focusing on his own revenue targets, right? That energetic came through the customer and it became about him versus about the customer. So I said, stop worrying about what your numbers are and worry about how and where you can help the customer. And last week, I went on vacation. I was down in San Diego with my family for spring break, and he closed 5 gold level packages, which is our highest level package. It's 18,000 a person. He closed 5 in 5 days because I said, "What'd you do?" He said, "I just showed up as my authentic, caring self and stopped worrying about whether or not they signed up." And that made them want to sign up. I'm like, see, simple, not easy, right? So it's the ego that gets in the way. If you're just detached from whether or not a client signs up and you're genuinely attached to actually trying to help them and serve them, like, let them decide, and they're going to want to work with you, because that energy of neediness is what actually causes people to not want to work with you, because they feel like they're doing it for you versus them. So trying to hard close people or trying to convince them or use persuasion tactics, I am so against that. It's just like, let people decide for themselves.
There's so many different methodologies out there. I mean, there's sales trainers everywhere, and I'm not going to mention them, but hardcore different methodologies. I mean, some of them even have, like, at the end of their framework, at the end of the actual pitch is handle objections. And I'm like, this is complete nonsense. How are you going to handle objections at the end? It's too late, man. It's way too late. And the close should not be you. Close shouldn't even be called closing. It should be called the beginning, because it's really the beginning of a new relationship. As long as you want to stay in business, what do you do, Ian, that's unlike everybody else out there?
I show them options. I show my pricing online. If you go online, you can see my pricing. I'm full transparency. I have 3 packages for coaching. One is called Bronze. It's $3,000 a year, and it gets all the access to my content, my training, my assets, my curriculum. It's like getting an MBA, but it's online, it's self-service. You don't have me as your private coach. You get me digitally, right? With pre-recorded content and all the frameworks and assets that I've created already. The second level is Silver, which is group coaching. And that's meet with me every week. We do deal rooms. We're in a group. We have office hours. We have guest speakers, a lot of hands-on support, accountability pod, Slack channel, etc. That's $9,000 a year. And then private is $18,000 a year. That includes live events, masterminds, one-on-one coaching with me or one of my coaches. And I just let people choose. I don't care. I'm not attached, but I am attached to them doing something. I'm not attached to them doing nothing, but I don't care what product. I'm not trying to sway someone towards gold or silver or bronze. What I want to give people is options and let them decide what's right for them, because then they can make the decision of, what am I going to do, which one, versus am I going to do something at all? That's the way I like to position things, is give people an alternative and give them choices and let them decide, versus trying to push them onto one product or service. So for me, that, if they don't want to buy one-on-one or gold, great. Well, we have these other options. What do you think makes sense for you, and let you decide. So I think that's a little different than a lot of people who are trying to push one product where they get spiffed, or where they're, companies focused on, or a lot of people where they don't share the pricing. In fact, when I have someone book a call with my sales team, I tell them our minimum packages are 3,000, they range from 3 to 18. Don't book the call if you're not serious about working with us, right? So I'm really wanting people that talk to us and leads that come in are understanding what we do, what we cost, and be as transparent as possible. And I think that, for me, that matches kind of the style and the approach that I take, because I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm here to help you through coaching. And if you want it, great. And if you don't, let's spend our time and energy on people that actually want to work with us. That's really important to me, as I work with people that want to be here. If I have to convince you that I'm the right fit, like, I'm not interested,
Yeah, exactly. Because then, you become needy, right? And,
That's right.
And I've literally, in my career, went door to door for years, 7 different countries around the world. I went door to door in India, dude. I went door to door in Caracas, Venezuela, Philippines, Indonesia, South Korea, like, literally. But then I learned to sell different FMCG goods, to learning to sell ADT alarms, but I own the company, right? Not ADT, but
The deal. Yeah. Distributor.
Yeah. And then I went to selling from the stage, selling coaching programs. And I even did a mastermind. And this was before COVID, but literally I did exactly what you're saying. I literally I took questions from the entire crowd and I asked them what was the biggest challenges in their business. And I call it the reverse engineering close, right? And I find out all of their different challenges, all of their different problems, all of their pain. And then I let them know, now here's how you need to develop your value proposition. Here's how you need to offer. This is how we reverse engineer the value proposition to you. So you did say you needed this, you needed that, you needed that. You did say you needed this, you needed this, you needed that. You did say you had this pain, this challenge, and that. And you all want this, this, and this. So here's what it is. There's package number one. It's $5,000. And it includes this, this, and this. There's package number two. That's $10,000. And then there's the all in $40,000 where you get me and Vikas, because I had a partner then, and you get us for the whole year. You got us on speed dial. So now I'm going to go around the room and you let me know what package makes the most sense to you. Stand up based on what you just told me. Did $114,000 in a weekend with 14 people. Wow. Every one of them signed up for something. It wasn't 114 because they were all even numbers. It was either 140. Anyway, I'm like, that was so effortless and easy.
It should be effortless.
Yeah, effortless and easy, and everybody knows what they're getting. Ian, when's the last time you came to Asia?
When I was 16? No. I went before I got married, 2000. I went to Thailand 2011. So that 13 years ago.
Well, I'm going to invite you to the Philippines, man. Let's work together.
As long as I can bring my wife and kids, I'm good.
Of course.
They're my partners in crime. So
yeah, I have mine too, and I have a little boy and a lady, and he just turned 6, and I'm a late bloomer. But he just got his blue belt in Taekwondo.
Nice.
So where can people find you, Ian? Give us the website, your LinkedIn, all of it, because this is priceless and this is gold.
So look in the chat. I can send you also the 2 links in. I can email it to you as well in case, but I would grab it before you depart, John, to make sure we get all this. But I would download the top traits of elite sales performers, know what you're hiring for. Definitely download the Predict scorecard. Those are assets. If you want to keep up with me and my content, a couple places. One is LinkedIn. That's where I'm on every day. I post sales tips, sales training, sales coaching strategies, especially for those larger, more complex deals. LinkedIn. I have a YouTube channel. Every week I do a new sales training video, completely free. I have a newsletter you can sign up for. untapyoursalespotential.com/newsletter. You can sign up there. And if you're interested in coaching or working with me, simply go to untapyoursalespotential.com. That's my company, and hit book a call, and we can talk about how we can help either your organization with sales coaching, or send your reps to me, and I can help them untap their sales potential. And that's a way to work with me if you're interested in my products or services.
Right on, man. This has been an absolute pleasure, Ian. I'll definitely break out with the Predict framework with my team. I absolutely love it.
Use it for deal coaching. Go through and have them fill it out. And then, like, instead of saying, what's the next step? When are we closing? And say, let's go through the quality of the deal. When you do your pipeline review, check for quality, and then have them fill in the gaps and go find out and have them use it in their conversations, because it works. It really does work. When you can fill out all those questions and really understand the why behind it, like, it's natural that they're going to want to work with you, because the pain is greater than the effort of changing is a lot less than the pain of staying the same. That's the key. That's when companies change.
100%. And I love how you go deep with it, because, I know I'm aware of the NEAT framework and BANT framework and MEDIC, and MEDIC is, to me, just a bunch of complicated garbage. It's just doesn't work, but Predict works I do like neat. Bant is just quality.
Yeah, I like Richard Harris. I know Richard. He's a friend of mine, right? Simple. It's all about the conversation. It's all about caring, and it's all the same theme. Teach people to care and watch the sales come in. My family, speaking of caring, is here, and my parents are coming over. They're here outside my office for dinner, and everyone is waiting on me. So I do have to go right now, but I appreciate you having me on, John.
Hey,
Definitely.
thanks for sending through those gifts. Send me your address too. I'd like to send you some gifts, Ian. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Yeah, I had Richard on also. He's brilliant. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to send a review about what you liked on this podcast or share it with somebody who would need it to definitely improve their business, building and scaling sales teams, do me a favor, like, share. It means a lot to me so that we can help others grow and live in abundance. That's a wrap, folks. Thanks for joining me today. And if you got value from this episode, do me a favor, like, subscribe, and refer a friend. And if you want even more value, go to thesalesmachine.com, click on resources, and there's tons of resources there to increase profits and drive performance in your business. Right on, come on.